On Monday the 3rd of October 1977, a very pregnant Raina and myself decided to take Luke and Brigida to the Pennant Hills pub for a barbecue dinner. We never got there. Where we did get to was King George V Hospital in Camperdown, Sydney, where Raina was going to proudly deliver our third child. I recall sitting in a waiting room reading a 10-year-old magazine, thoroughly interested in reading what happened 10 years ago. I was approached by a midwife who had inquired if I was Mr. Naish. I said I was, and she said, "Does your family have a history of twins?" And I said, "No, why?" She said, "I believe your wife is having undiagnosed twins." Well, I was sitting down. Unfortunately, I think I would have fallen down. So they said they would take an X-ray to ensure that this was the case. But she said, "Look, I know it's for real." She said, "I've heard two distinct heartbeats through the stethoscope." And sure enough, there were twins. So some 4 to 5 hours later, on the 4th of October, we were delivered of Naish number 1, 4 pound 4 ounces, and Naish number 2, 4 pound 15 ounces. They were 3 weeks premature, and at that stage they actually spent 3 weeks in humidity cribs, which was a relatively new innovation in those days, and quite frankly they may not be here today but for them. Now, having identical twins is a very, very unique experience. Those of you, if there's any here that happen to have a twin, would know what I'm talking about. But for parents and for other siblings to experience having identical twins in the family is a pretty unique experience. They tend to do everything together. For the first, for example, 2.5 years of their life, they had their own language. We couldn't understand it. It started off when they were originally in bassinets, then in the cots, and then in their double pusher, and they'd babble on, and they actually used to tell jokes because they'd start laughing at one another and whatever. When we went to live in Fiji, when they were just over 12 months old, we had a Fijian house girl living with us, and she cottoned onto this language pretty good, and the three of them had some very interesting conversations. This has actually continued all through life, and those of you who know them would know that they have very, very similar interests. In fact, it was only just recently that Raina and I went looking for them because they hadn't come in for the meal call, the dinner call, and Raina sort of beckoned for me to come down and sort of look but be quiet. So we go into Kieran's bedroom, and there they are, both lying parallel on Kieran's bed reading the same book. I kid you not. This sort of togetherness started in very young times, I might tell you. I could tell you of an incident when we were living in Richards Road, Suva. And Raina and I heard this chuckling and chortling going on. And then there was hilarity. It was the twins. They were in the bathroom. We heard the continuous flushing of the toilet. So we went in. We went in to inquire what they were doing, and they were standing around the throne with no pants on, looking into the throne and admiring their handiwork. It soon became very apparent that they'd flushed their pants down the toilet. They were about 2 years of age at this stage. Anyway, further investigation revealed that they were so proud of their handiwork they visited their cupboard and taken 12 pair of pants and flushed the whole 12 of them down. I mean, the little angels, you can't imagine it, can you? But it really is a unique experience to have twins like the two of them in the family. It's been a unique experience for Raina and I. Certainly a memorable one for Luke. He was a very patient big brother, and also a very caring brother, and a very good playmate to them.
Love you, boys.
Brigida, from the time that she was, well actually soon after they were born, I think she started answering the telephone because Raina was feeding 2 at a time. And yes, even in those days I used to know all the late movies because I could actually prop myself on the couch, have a pillow here and a pillow here and a twin there, and I could feed the bottles and watch the movies at the same time. You'll see shots which I'm about to show you shortly, of those sort of things, because we have a history here. I won't dwell on the subject of Kyle and Kieran, except to say that as a family, we're very proud of their individual achievements and also their progression through to manhood and getting the keys to the car and also the keys to the front door, which, due to IB this week, they've had to use quite extensively. I'd also like to thank, tonight particularly, their grandparents, Jim and Lorraine, who flew down from Sydney last week. Jim and Lorraine, in the absence of my parents who lived overseas, have been wonderful grandparents to all my children, and a lot of them love them very much, and I'm very proud and commend the job that they have done as grandparents. You'll see some of the excerpts on their life reel, which I'm about to show you, and you'll understand why. I would also like to thank Sister Brigida and her fiancé Stuart, and brother Luke and his partner Sky for their 875k dash from Sydney this morning, leaving at 4:30 to be here tonight. We appreciate your attendance, and indeed I appreciate all your attendance here this evening. I won't dwell any further on this because I believe there's a few Get Squares coming up shortly. I'll run a video, and then Jim, the grandfather, wishes to say a few words. But what you're about to watch is a history of photographs going way back. It's the original 8mm movies. It's Compact C. It's Video 8. The photography's lousy. Most of it was taken by me. The editing's worse. I'll never be a movie producer, but I hope you get some of the idea of what it was like to have identical twins in the family. So with this, I'll just run the video.
Stiff drink for Carl, please.
Oh, yes, thank you very much, Ray. That's very good to see that the grandchildren all over again. It's a wonderful experience. Anyway, boys, the very, very best on your 21st. But anyway, it throws back memories to me when you were quite young. I remember when you were only about 4 or 5 and your parents brought you back from Fiji there just for a trip back for a while, and we were looking after you one night while Ray and Raina were going out, and anyway, you were just different personalities, Kyle and Kieran. Now early next morning, Kieran came in and he tapped, I was still in bed, Kieran came in and he tapped me on the cheek and he said to me, you know, your daughter owes me a lot of money. Not his mother, mind you, but my daughter putting the onus back on me. And I said, oh, that's no good. I said, how much does she owe you? And he said, $1,000. Oh dear, that is a lot of money. And he said, don't worry about it. I'm a bank manager. He was only about 4 years. And the same morning I was in the bathroom having a shave. And Kyle comes along and he taps at the door and he said, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, he said, but I want to use the toilet. I said, oh, well, that's all right. What a man's got to do, he's got to do. And he said to me, but it's a big job. I said, oh, well, that's okay, go ahead. So he comes in and he's sitting on the throne for a while, and I could hear, you know, a few grunts. And he said to me, it's a bit hard to get started at first. And I often think of him these days myself. I go to the toilet. It's a bit hard to get started at first. But anyway, I said, well, when you get us started, I said, run along okay. He said, oh, sometime. I said, well, if you get to start and it won't run along, I said, take a hint from an old butchie. I said, someone that's been down the track and knows all the tricks. I said, if you get to start and it won't run along, I said, just get down from the front, squat down, put your heel up and put your heel on and stand up. He said, okay. Anyway, after a while I hear flop, flop, flop. And he said, I pretend I'm dropping bombs. And then he followed up with, on Russia. And I might mention at that time we weren't on very friendly terms with Russia. So I said to him, well, I couldn't think of more suitable ammunition or a better place to drop. Anyway, after a while, we're in the kitchen. I was talking to his mum. I was telling Raina about it, and she said to him, well, just as well your grandfather's got a sense of humour. Anyway, you know, you don't forget these things of your grandchildren, you know, just they're coming up. Anyway, however, I have a little poem here, and I hope your imagination don't carry away too much. It's only a few lines, if you'll bear with me. You may have heard it before, but anyway, it is a very hot day in the summer last year. A young man went swimming around Manly Pier. He dived underneath and he swam to a rock, and he amused his young lady by waving his fist to the copper who stood on the shore. The very same copper that copped him before. Now, this copper to order him off was a farce, for this cheeky young man simply showed him his wonderful manners and graceful behaviour. When he did come across, simply laughed in his face. Now this youth and his sweetheart, they went for a swim, and he travelled some distance with his hand on her just to support her in case she felt tired. This kindly attention the lady admired. He could swim like a fish and dive like a duck, and he finished the morning by having a nice little lunch and wine. A treat which no lady had been able to recline. Her blue dress of serge was the nicest of fits, and showed to advantage the swell of her beautiful figure. From her hand to her feet. In fact, her appearance was exceedingly neat. They lounged on the beach when he started to hunt for some nice bits of seaweed to hang round her window. A reminder of those bright sunny days spent by the blue sea. But weary of this, to the water she'd start, and she'd frighten her sweetheart by letting her roaring waves try to reach her toes. Then with glee, she'd laugh as she slipped out of reach of the sea. Thank you very much.
Okay, can I call on Al and... Well,
Alan's there and dressing.
They're sneaking in the side door.
come on, Gareth. Come on, Adrian. I believe you've got a... Oh, my goodness. Here we go.
Sorry, everyone, it's not quite over yet. Now, Kieran and Kyle told us before we did these speeches that if any one of us said something slanderous that the others didn't know about, that we were all to be held accountable for this. So we consulted our legal advisor, the learned Paul Leondis, and we've just got him to say a few quick words before we start the speech.
Coleman, Prowse and Hardman shall not be liable to the listener or any other person for any loss or damage, however caused, whether by negligence, misrepresentation or otherwise, resulting directly or indirectly from listening to or relating the substance of the following dialogue. Subject to any applicable law to the contrary, which cannot be excluded, the listener agrees by silence that any liability incurred by Coleman, Prowse and Hardman from listening to or relating the substance of the following dialogue is limited to the supply of a single beer to be purchased at some future date to be determined solely at the discretion of Coleman, Prowse and Hardman.
Welcome to the world of K1 and K2, a world of scandal and beer that's brewed. To highlight two lives that have gone rather askew, three merry minstrels they've brought for you.
Well, we have the honour this evening of divulging some of the better kept secrets of the Naish boys, Kyle Raymond and Kieran Jade. We like to think we know these two pretty well, their thoughts, actions and their idiosyncrasies. But these things shouldn't be reserved for just a few of us, so we're going to share them with you.
But just before we start our speeches, we'd like to entertain you with a little fashion parade. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce you the K&K collection. First off, we have the Twins casual clothing.
Comfy!
The next ensemble is the stunning formal attire with the ever-fashionable black suit pants, business shoes, and moving up the fancy bow tie and the ever-fashionable rugby top. On the back of the rugby top, we have numbers, and the numbers aren't just there for rugby playing, it's also there to indicate which twin is which.
I'll know what I'll be wearing this summer.
The next is our gorgeous model, with the cutting-edge fashion modelling our business attire. Starting with the traditional navy suit, moving on to the beautiful rugby top, and if we just take off the jacket, we can notice the fine material that this rugby jumper is made out of. And then we move on to the ever-fashionable Dimmy's 100% pure Italian silk tie.
Stunning, simply stunning. That's one good-looking model and one fine rugby top.
Boys, would you please don the jumpers?
Hey!
Thanks, guys. Hey, can you tell us apart?
Well, the story begins in March 1996.
Sorry. It was actually the 23rd of February 1996.
Oh, sorry about that, Kyle. Anyway, much before that date is unknown. For our friendly twins are Sydney people, a little bit arrogant, pretentious, and up themselves. The list just goes on. What happened before this date is simply a mystery. However, there are a number of rumours. But, as the Naish boys say, what stays on tour, well, what goes on tour stays on tour. However, in our eyes, whatever happened after the 23rd of February 1996 is fair game.
I'd just like to make a formal apologies to the boys now because they know what's coming up.
Take it away.
I'm sure most of you here know tonight well enough now that the twins have had, how shall I put this, intimate encounters with some of the female persons in this room. They will, of course, remain unnamed.
Actually, I think the word you're looking for is anonymous.
Thanks, Kieran. But most of you here tonight don't know the filthy, disgusting and depraved fashion in which this all took place. Mainly because, breathe easy, Mr. and Mrs. Naish, wasn't filthy nor depraved. In fact, they behaved like true gentlemen, which is no mean feat considering how drunk they were at the time. Seriously though, it was a beautiful, tender moment, which I had the pleasure of witnessing. And all I can say is that there was a lot of love in the pub that night. There was also a lot of dribble, but mainly a lot of love.
Did you know, in 1977, John Travolta starred in the disco film Saturday Night Fever.
Thanks, Kieran.
Thanks, Kieran.
On to matters more physical. Kyle and Kieran are both, how should I put it, sports fanatics. Their enthusiasm stretches across many sports in many countries, but their hearts stay true to one sport, rugby.
Now, I don't know if any of you guys are aware, but rugby was not actually conceived by the human race, rather the canine race. Now, remnants of this fact are quite clearly still demonstrated today by the close attention the players pay to each other's bottoms. Now, taken on by humans, rugby was first played, and again, not many people probably know this, by the English against the Welsh.
I think you will find it was the Scots, Kyle.
No, Kieran, I'm positive. England v Wales, Highbury Plain, 4th of October 1562, 2:30 in the afternoon.
It must have been 3:30 because the Welsh of the day had lunch at around 2:30.
3:30, you're right. But the match was delayed by 3 minutes and 48 seconds due to an extra long pre-match piss-up by the Welsh. Anyway, back in 1562, the game was known as Ugby. Now, no one's quite sure why this is exactly, but it's believed to be a reflection on the respective IQ levels of the participants.
Or on the fact that the Welsh can't speak English properly.
Quite. Love the new Catatonia album though. Isn't it awesome?
Yeah, a bit raspy in parts, but overall not bad. Anyway, Kyle's right, Ugby then became Thugby in the early 19th century. Mainly because the players were all ex-convicts.
Or just plain meatheads.
And finally became rugby in the 20th. Why? Because R is for rough.
Rugby has to be played rough.
It's not rugby otherwise.
Of course, this is union we're talking about.
Oh, for sure, only Woofers play league.
Good choice of words, Kieran.
Yes, well, it's a well-known fact that the Twins like it a little rough. Not just their rugby though. Although Kyle can unfortunately play rugby anymore, he has to play touch. They just don't like their rugby hard, also their drinks.
Sub-Zero, Strongbow, who the hell are they when they're home? We'll have beer, and a Scotch, and another beer.
They like their drinks rough, and I have to say that also goes for the hangovers. And last but not least, some might say they like their women rough also.
Thanks, guys.
I haven't read this speech till just now. I didn't know what I was actually saying, which is not a bad thing, considering to hang around with these hard men. The girls would have to be quite, how do I say, blokey.
That's right. Because the Twins are hard men. The hardest of the hard. Toughest of the tough. Wouldn't be caught dead in linen pants or corduroy shirts.
Never see a Naish boy addicted to chocolate. Way too girly.
Never sacrifice a Saturday night on the Terps because of work the next day. These boys are hard.
Did you know, in 1977, the first Apple computer was marketed in the US?
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle. Well, let's be frank. The Twins are animals when it comes to food. If they don't have at least 6 meals a day, they get upset, very grumpy, and normally get sent to bed early.
It's not a rare occasion that I drop in on the Twins, and on many occasions the parents are around holidays. Now, I don't know about all of you, but at the age of 20, you would think that many a grown man could look after themselves, and maybe, just maybe, guys, would be able to cook for themselves.
Well, many a grown man could eat, but not Kyle or Kieran. If Mr. and Mrs. Naish are gone for a week, you can bet your life that there are 7 pre-made dinners in the fridge. Coincidence? Oh, maybe it's beside the point.
Guys, the concentric circles on the plates are not there for aesthetic reasons. Rather, they're there to indicate how much food can reasonably fit on those plates in question. We all know you're still trying to beat the world record in curry eating, but if the plate don't fit...
Doesn't fit.
Sorry, Kyle. If the plate doesn't fit the appetite, find a bigger plate. You'll save time by not having to clean up the floor.
And now these merry minstrels 3 have prepared a spot of fun for thee, and everyone here shall chance to see just how the Twins' futures are going to be.
Yes. We figure that Kyle and Kieran have 2 possible career paths more or less mapped out for them. And we looked into our crystal balls to see just what might happen. Here's scenario number 1.
All rise, the Honourable Justice Paul Leondis, residing.
Be seated. In the case of Naish and Naish, a dispute arising over which Naish is better. I will now take appearances.
Please the court, my name is Kieran Naish and I'll be representing myself.
Please the court, Kyle Naish representing myself.
Thank you, Mr. Naish. I will now hear your submission.
Thank you, Your Honour.
Not you, Mr. Naish, the other Mr. Naish. Normal courtroom procedure.
Excuse me, Your Honour.
Please the court, I submit that I am both more physically and mentally able than my learned brother. In short, Your Honour, he is an inferior specimen of Naish. My marks were better than him at school. I can run further, faster, I'm better looking, and I'm much better at picking up chicks. To sum up, Your Honour, my learned brother regularly plays the only sport which is less honourable than rugby.
What, rugby league?
No, Your Honour, even less honourable than that. Touch. I rest my case, Your Honour.
Thank you, Mr. Naish. Now, Mr. Naish, your submission.
Thank you, Your Honour. To please the court, I will lead evidence to prove that my learned brother is full of rubbish, not to mention full of himself. He is well renowned as a, well, to use the colloquial expression, shit spinner. And what's more, his favourite musician is Celine Dion.
That's nonsensical. Can my learned colleague prove such allegations?
Mr. Naish, your response?
Your Honour, I call my first witness. Call Mr. Ashley Shipham.
Consider yourself sworn in, Mr. Shipham.
Mr. Shipham, who is Kieran Naish's favourite musician?
Celine Dion.
I see! Well, that clears things up, doesn't it? Mr. Shipham, my learned brother stated earlier that he was better at picking up chicks than I am. How do you react to this comment?
I'm a bit surprised, actually. I always thought he liked boys.
Is that so? Thank you, Mr. Shipham. You can step down. If this damning evidence isn't enough, Your Honour, I'd just like to add that I'm older, and if I hadn't come out first, he might not even be here.
Come out of the closet, don't you, mate?
That's enough, Mr. Naish. I'll find you in contempt in a moment. I've reached my decision. The court finds that you both get stuffed. I'm smarter, stronger, better looking than both of you.
Yes, the boys are both fine lawyers, but if they didn't make it there, they've always got commerce to fall back on. Here's future scenario number 2.
G'day, and welcome to Rugby Tops Are Us. I'm Kyle Naish.
And I'm Kieran Naish. We're the nations!
Yeah, I'm looking for a rugby jumper.
Well, you've come to the right place. There's one thing we know about, it's rugby jumpers!
See what I mean? Whichever way they go, we can guarantee one thing. In 10 years' time, they'll still be living at home, where the meals is homemade.
Are homemade.
Sorry, Kyle, are homemade, and the washing's done for you.
Well, here's to you, Kyle and Kieran. You're great friends.
Oh, yeah.
And we love you. We all love you very dearly. You've come a long way to this night. May your journey from henceforth be equally as entertaining for you as it is for us. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please charge your glasses so that we may toast to Kyle and Kieran.
To Kyle and Kieran.
Floor's yours.
I'd just like to thank everyone and say just how much it comes to you really do.
Can I merely say, for a start, to everyone who's come here, thank you for turning out, especially those who've come from interstate, because that is a hell of an effort. To that lot, compared to what they were threatening, that's very kind indeed. So I thank you for that as well.
You haven't done anything wrong.
Yes, indeed. I've been blessed, I think, by some extremely good friends, some very good relatives, meaning Luke, Regina, Mum and Dad, Hook and Dale, Jim and Lorraine, as they've been introduced to you tonight. It's my grandparents, and countless others who have been extremely good to me throughout my life. And for that, if I've ended up shitty, it's in spite of these efforts, rather because of it, because everything has gone right until now, and it's I guess now up to me to drop the ball, which we'll see. But can I just thank all those involved for making the first 21 years of my life extremely enjoyable, rewarding, and at this stage, pretty good. One final thing, I believe we have an encore, and that is from my grandfather, who would like to
give us another little ditty. And based on his previous efforts, I'm not going to stop him. So if I could call Dale to take the floor again, just to finalise this evening.
Would you like to hear Sonia Snell?
I would very much like to hear Sonia Snell.
Oh, right. Probably everybody's heard it. It's an oldie. Anyway, this is the tale of Sonia Snell, to whom an accident befell. An accident, as may well be seen, embarrassing in the extreme. It happens, as it does to many, that Sonia wanted to spend a penny and entered in with modest grace the properly appointed place provided at the railway station. And there she sat in meditation. Unfortunately for her, unacquainted, the woodwork had been newly planted, and this made poor Sonia realise her inability to rise. And though she struggled, tugged and yelled, she found that she was firmly held. She raised her voice in mournful shout, "Please, someone come and let me out." Her frenzied cries then quickly brought a crowd of every kind and sort. They stood around and feebly sniggered, and all they said was, "Well, I'm jiggered." "God blimey," said an aged porter, "we ought to soak her off with water." The station master and his staff were most polite and did not laugh. A carpenter arrived at last, and finding Sonia stuck fast, remarked, "I know what I can do," and he quickly sawed the back of the seat right through. Sonia arose only to find a wooden halo on behind. An ambulance then came down the street and bore her off complete with seat. They took the wooden bustle gal off quickly to the hospital and quickly carried her inside after her short but painful ride. Then catching her by heels and head, they laid her face downwards on a bed. The doctors all came on parade to render her immediate aid. A surgeon said, "Upon my word, could anything be more absurd? Have any of you, I implore, seen anything like this before?" "Yes," said a student, unashamed, "frequently, but never framed."
Thank you all very much. Just enjoy the rest of the evening.
Colin Kieran will now commence their 21st birthday skulls. They can't put it away in 3 seconds. One.
find out. It's a quick break. We're going to try and bring you the floor.